Thank you. Cool. So, thank you, Nick. Like Nick says, I'm going to be showing you how we can turn some of your existing customers your existing visitors into being actual customers. That's really what our websites are there for. They're all about turning these people that come to browse a site, maybe through a referral, maybe through a search engine. How can we make them so they become a customer of ours? And it starts following on from what a lot of Ian's talked about, and that is user experience. And when we talk about user experience, like Ian was mentioning, we're talking about making these unhappy people happy. We're talking about they're doing something on your site. They've come to your website for a reason. And we need to make sure that this visit is something that they achieve whatever they've come to do. They may be at a very basic level where they're just saying, I want a website. Or they may be at quite an advanced level where they're saying, I need web hosting with a certain number of databases. But whatever it is, they're coming across with some form of idea in their mind what they want to complete. And we need to make it so that they can do it in the easiest way possible. And where does this all start? Well, it starts right up at the top with keeping things simple. We know our products very well. As a reseller, you probably know hosting better than so many other people, particularly people who just, are casual buyers. And often we sometimes get too involved in our products. We use language that only we understand, and we're not thinking about who's actually buying the products, who's actually buying the services from us. So whenever we are considering what we put on our pages, we need to be considering is this the easiest way possible for my customer? Not for ourselves, not the quickest way to get it on the internet. Is it the easiest way for the person who's going to be buying from me? Now, here's a great example. On the far side, we see a manual. I'm sure we've all bought something like a printer, where you get this manual which is 60, 70 pages long, and does anyone read the whole manual? No. And the manufacturers know this. They know this because they now include quick start guides. Within the guides, it's 4 steps to get your printer started, and it's open this, put it in here, install, and off you go. Now our websites can be doing that. We need to be thinking about what's the quick start guide for your website, for your customers. How can they get online quickly? Because customers are going to be at different levels. They're going to have different understanding of the products and services that you offer. So how do we know where we're starting? What do we know what our first steps are? Well, it starts at the very top. And what we mean by this is you have a business, and hopefully this may be a full-time business, may be a part-time business, but your business should somewhere have a plan. It's an idea of where you want to go. And within this business plan, your website is probably a channel. It's probably the main channel because it's what we sell on. So we have our website. And our website has objectives. It has this goal that we have. We want to complete. It may be something like make £50,000 worth of revenue. It may be get 10,000 customers. Whatever it is, your website has a particular part in your business that should be defined. And as we all know, websites are made up of multiple pages. So within each page, every page needs to be contributing towards this website objective. So whenever we have a page, it needs to serve a purpose. Not just putting a page on there for a page sense, but actually, whenever we add something, it needs to have quality content that's going to help our website objective. And then, even within a page can be broken down further to have sub-objectives. Now, to give you an example, you may be to make £50,000 worth of revenue, and your page goal is to sell 10,000 WordPress packages, whatever it is. Now, within your WordPress landing page, you're going to have various objectives. You're going to have a buy button, which is probably going to be your primary objective within that page. You may have a more info, which takes them to the specifics about the technical details behind the package that they're after. There may be a contact me button. And the reason why that's part of your objective is because not everybody buys online. We may be selling websites, and there's certainly this illusion that we've got to make it all online, where actually transactions, we as a business, we sell a lot of our products can be sold over the phone. So consider, are you eliminating some potential customers just because you're forcing them to buy online, or are you making it easy for them? But why is all this important? And it's important because of priority. If you make your contact buttons bigger than your buy buttons, what are you subtly conveying to your customers? You're saying, actually, this probably isn't the most important. The most important bit is you get in touch with me, but we want to automate that revenue. We want to make sure people are pressing the buy button as much as possible. So how do we kind of dictate this priority within a website? I'm pretty sure you most know Ling's cars. It's an absolute mess. Now, she is obviously an exception to this rule. She's got success purely because of the mess she has on her website. But it's quite transparent that where do you look here? You know, it's just such an overwhelming page to be looking at. There's no idea. You know, we don't quite know. Are we meant to be looking at this big red button here? Do we click over here? It's, you know, it's all over the place. Now, I'm hoping that as researchers, you all should have quite nice, clean sites. But this is obviously an extreme version. You know, there's much to be said for having it as clean as possible on your site. Here's a great test that you can do on your own sites. It's called the blur test. And what this means is take your website and squint at it. Squint and work out what's what. And I'm going to do a live version for you here. So here's an online shop retailer. Where would you hazard to guess? You have to click here. Okay, well, I'm going to guess the fact nobody has any idea where you want to click, which is perfect because, in my opinion, Boys Stuff don't do a very good job of making it clear where they want you to click. Perhaps maybe it was the festival button at best. You know, they've kind of got a lot of products to a lot of people, a lot of markets, and it's confusing. Likewise, one of our sister companies, 123reg, hopefully it should be a bit more transparent where I want you to click. You want to hazard a guess? Oh, that's a bit worried. Someone said the green button? Yep, thankfully that's absolutely right. We want you to be clicking that green buy button. And it's quite easy to understand how just doing this on your own site, it will really kind of help make you understand what sticks out from your site. You know, to a complete novice, what is that overwhelming element on the page which is being presented? So when we've kind of looked at our page and we've taken it down, and this is going to go back to one of the earlier talks as well. We talk about our products, and we know our products well, and our products are actually quite a complex product. And this is something that I know within the company, we've always had a problem conveying because it's such a technical product. And actually, some of our, and most of our potential customers are not necessarily technical people. They just say, I want a website. They don't necessarily understand the concept of buying web space. So what we need to be talking in is a language that they understand. And this starts with feature benefit marketing. Now, this is actually a fundamental marketing principle. One of the hazards that we're all guilty of at some point is selling a feature. The problem is that a feature doesn't sell itself. A feature for a Hoover might be that it has 13,000 revs, but unless anyone's a Hoover expert in here, that doesn't mean very much to us. The actual benefit is it sucks up all the dirt, it will pick up anything there is, because 15,000 revs is far bigger than anything else in the market. But just to give you an example, toothpaste, feature is that it's minty. The actual benefit is sexy kissable breath. And actually, if you look at Colgate's advertising, they play across this sex appeal. If you look at, for instance, a record collection for a DJ, you know, the fact that I have 50,000 songs doesn't sell itself. It's the experience that you get as a DJ provides. So think about what it is you offer. Do you offer 10,000 gigs of space, or do you offer the complete solution for your customers? Do you need 4 or 5 different packages, or are they just as happy just knowing that their website's online? You know, think about who your customers are and what is it that they understand about the products. And thinking about who they are, we've got to make sure we're talking in the right language. Hopefully no one quite grasps what exemplary terminology and onomastics are. And that's exactly because we don't want to be using jargon. Not particularly at the start of the engagement with this customer. When they've come to visit our site for the first time, too often we can be quoting these words that are overwhelming and they're new to the customer. They don't know what the hard drive is. They don't understand what the database is. Some people really don't understand the concepts that we all understand well because they're our products. So when you start your pages, it should be built in a sense that starts off with light language, that starts off with language that everybody can digest. So if you went to go buy that Hoover we were talking about, you'd understand what the basic opening paragraphs are. And the reason is because it's simple. We as webmasters, if I said to you, go buy hosting from another hosting company, and I said, here's £10, get the best deal you can do, I bet you're going to go onto the hosting page, you're going to skip all the marketing, and you're going to get to the comparison table. And that's because you understand the product. You grasp the concepts behind it. And your website visitors are going to be doing the exact same. They're going to be going from, if they know the product, they're going to skip the marketing fluff, and they're going to go down to your comparison tables. So structure your pages like that to ensure that everybody isn't overwhelmed, because if you overwhelm someone who doesn't know, they're not going to buy from you. However, someone who is in the know already knows what they've got to do. They're going to skip past it. So once we have the language all sorted, We then have to look at making sure our site's consistent. Now, again, this is the point that Ian touched on. But if I say to you, where's the contact page? Everybody knows it's either in the very top right or the very top bottom. That's because it's a web consistency. Now, your site is also going to have some consistencies, such as the menu layout, the structure, the general organization. So be considering of that when you build your site, try and keep the layout almost like a template. Because if it's easy and consistent, it means people can get through your website nice and quickly. It means they're going to be in this autopilot. And this autopilot is what brings in quite a lot of money, because people do things without necessarily consciously thinking. Now, the most important part on our product pages, so we have our WordPress web landing page, is our call to action. And we've had quite a lot of discussion on some of the aspects of a call to action. But to give you an idea, the worst thing that you can do is have too many on a page. It's the number one fundamental rule. The more you have, the less diluted. It goes back to Ian's image where we had loads of those green ones and there was the one blue one. Likewise, if you have too many of these call to actions on the page, you're going to be distracting away from them. But what else can you do? What else can you do to raise the prominence of your buttons? Well, you can control the size. You can make a button bigger or smaller. Obviously, if you make it the full size of the page, yes, it's going to get clicked, but the chances are no one's going to actually end up buying your product. Color is a really important aspect as well. We know that green is that subtle way of saying continue, whereas red's a subtle way of stop, as we mentioned earlier. So be considerate of your color. Now, obviously, if you have a green website, having a green button isn't going to make it stick out. But likewise, if you have a completely red site, but using a green button will probably go quite a while. So be considering also the language that you use on the button. It's been proven to have quite a significant impact. If you're selling something like a simple package, you can probably get away with using a hard sell, which is the wording like buy now. Whereas if you're selling something like a server, chances are that you might need to give them a bit of a softer approach. So you might use the words like a soft sell, like the word continue. So you need to be considerate of what wording you're actually using. Does it need to be persuasive or does it need to be a hard sell? But once we've kind of got all these, once we've finally got that customer to click that button, they're finally processing down the order process, the worst thing we can do is hit them with an interruption. We might try and upsell them this, or we might try and cross-sell them that. And I know that we on our sites have been guilty of it as well. Sometimes we think, yeah, let's try and get them onto a bigger package. And actually what we're really doing is jeopardizing the sale itself. We try to say, hey, why don't you upgrade for 2 years instead of 1? And actually, because we've put this pop-up, and pop-ups are really bad. Pop-ups are really bad. Don't put pop-ups on your site. Because we put this pop-up or this modal on your site, on our site, it's cost us more money than it's made us. So be considerate of that when you're designing your website. But there are sometimes interruptions that aren't necessarily a present interruption. It's not something that's just flashed up on the screen. And these are objections. And objections are something that we all face throughout any product when you're buying. For instance, a car salesman is a great example where if you go, you find that Ferrari that you're going to buy because you're selling so many hosting packages, and you say, oh, I really want that hosting, I really want that Ferrari, but I can't afford it just yet. What do the salesman turn around and do? Well, he turns around and said, that's fine. We've got many finance packages. Do you want it over 24 or 36 months? So what does that mean for us? Well, we don't quite seem to have this ability to be present on our site the whole time. Maybe you do. Maybe you run a live chat. But where you can't, your website needs to overcome these objections. It needs to cover all the bases by providing enough information. Now, this means everything. Everything you can think of, from the most mundane detail to the most abstract piece about what it is you offer. Your blog should be doing this anyway for good content. I'm not going to go into the SEO side of things, but just from an educational piece, we are responsible as product owners for ensuring that people know how to buy our products and make sure they buy the right products in the right way. Because if they're buying the right products, they're not going to complain. Whereas if they're buying the wrong product for themselves because they bought a VPS because they thought they wanted 10 sites, possibility is they may end up cancelling with us. And actually, we've just lost altogether because we didn't educate our customer. But there's various ways, and it goes back to the terminology we use and the structure of the page, that we want to be making sure that we're providing it in the right way possible, in the way that they can digest in a sense that's fashionable for them. But what if where we can't? Well, this goes back to some of the earlier presentations. If we can't provide enough information, we need to make sure we're easy to contact. Now, I'm not going to go into the requirements of social media or which way is best for you, because perhaps this is a part-time business for you. Perhaps you have a day job and actually you can't pick up the phone. Have a ticketing system, like we said earlier. Have an email address. Whatever way works for you, it doesn't matter. The most important bit is that you're contactable, because they may be just one question away from answering that sale. It may be a question of, will this work with X product? Will this work with product Y? All you need to do is be able to answer that question. It may be the difference between you getting the sale and your competitor. But what can we do once we've done all these various common aspects? Well, more recently, we have to be looking at trust elements. Trust elements is something that build this credibility to your website. How do I know that you're going to still be here in a year's time and my website's still going and my business is fundamentally based upon everything you do? Well, what we can do is increase these trust elements. And there's various trust elements. If you've won an award, it doesn't necessarily have to be the PC Pro Award, which I invite you to challenge us to try and take us for. But it can be a local business award. It doesn't have to be something national. But whatever it is, just make sure it's credible. There's no point starting up your own awards and then giving yourself first place. Clients, if you've got a client list like this, you probably don't need to be here. But the idea being, if you have notable clients, again, these can be local clients, they can be online clients, whatever it is, be talking about them because it adds credibility and trust to your presentation, so your website. And common elements. I'm sure you see these on every website, and because you're a web designer or you're in the web industry, you probably think, why is that a trust element? Well, actually, it goes back to one of the earlier slides about consistency, that there's research proven if you find these on your website, subtly we believe it's more trustworthy. Not that there's any limitation from anyone putting them on their site, there's just some affiliated trust with them. Now, also, we're going to talk about testimonials and reviews. It's one of the most important differentiators for you as your business. Web hosting is a homogeneous product. There's no real difference between what we do different from what you do, from what the next person sitting next to you does, except for your reviews, your testimonials, your existing customer list. Your existing customers will give you a review. Whether it's good or bad is both good for you, because if it's a good one, great, put it on your site. Or even better, put it on someone else's site. Use something like Trustpilot, Review Center, or any of these other third-party review clients. But if it's a bad one, it's going to be critical for your business because we're not in the game of selling snake oil. We want to be able to better our business. So understanding what the customer gripes are is what can translate to bettering your business. But once you have these reviews, make sure you are displaying them. They do make a big difference to your business. But one of the more recent trust elements you can add is this social endorsement. Now, as you can see, social endorsement is quite a hard thing to do for web hosting because what can we talk about? But social endorsement from this instance, we can see on the left-hand side is booking.com. I don't know if anyone's used it any time recently, but pretty much if you go on booking.com and you're looking at a hotel, it pops up saying 10 people just booked this a minute ago. And subtly it's saying to you, quick, I better book mine. eBay on the right-hand side, they're saying, 10 other people have just bought this. Why don't you get yours before it disappears? Now, you can find a way. Perhaps you want to be able to talk about some specific fact. You answer your tickets in under 5 minutes. Whatever it is, you can be adding something to your site that adds an element of endorsement, and making sure that it's not just you, this person sitting behind a computer that's going to disappear. It's really about saying to your customers that we're a reliable business. So once we have all of those, I'm hoping that all of you have got Google Analytics installed. Very quickly, it tells you pretty much everything and everything. If you don't already have it, go and install it. It is free. It can tell you all sorts of crazy details, which I'm sure probably most of you do already know. But once you've done all this, once you've got all the data, once you've got your site optimized, how do you make it better, which is probably the stage where most of you are at? How do you get your site to be capturing those extra 10% more sales? Through user testing. User testing can take any form, any sense. It can be done with a multivariate engine where you're using some form of testing tool. It can be done with just sitting next to a family member and saying, I'm going to open my website up, tell me what you think. Now, try not to use a family member because they may understand your product a bit better than anyone else. Ask a friend who perhaps doesn't have a website, or even better, someone who wants a website. Just take you through your site, take ideas in. And you may not agree with them, and that's fine. You don't have to agree with them. But if someone else thinks that, there may be some validity that perhaps what they're asking is, there's a possible improvement for your site. Now, Sally, I've only got 20 minutes, so that is pretty much all I've got time for to quickly run through website optimization. So I hope you've got some ideas, the most importantly being keeping your website simple and prioritizing the build of your website.